G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for the news vlog. I hope you've had an awesome day. First up, some great news on the eve of Super Tuesday there in America with the primaries for the GOP and Donald Trump looking really good, especially considering I'm wearing my Make America Great Again t-shirt because Donald J. Trump has had a unanimous victory in the US Supreme Court in his favor, 9-0. All the justices, judges, whatever they're called, voted in favor of the states not having any rights whatsoever when it comes to constitutional issues around the presidency and federal issues to have an input into who is on the ballot. It is not a state's issue according to the Supreme Court of the US. So Trump is now on the ballots as of now in terms of these states who have tried to strike him off the ballots. It's all been put down to a great waste of time and just lawfare and just more evidence of Trump derangement syndrome from especially these Democrat-run cities or states that just want to find any opportunity they can to take Donald J. Trump out of action come this November 20 election. Now, I'm going to read this article from the ABC to give you an idea of what all of this is about, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts on this. Donald Trump wins US Supreme Court fight to remain on ballots ahead of Super Tuesday primaries. The US Supreme Court has handed Donald Trump a major victory, ruling he cannot be disqualified under a constitutional clause referencing insurrection. The case was prompted by a decision from the Colorado Supreme Court to exclude him from the state's ballot. Well, don't they all look stupid right now? The justices of the Supreme Court unanimously overturned the decision by Colorado's top court to kick the former president off the state's Tuesday Republican primary ballot after finding that the Constitution's 14th Amendment disqualified him from again holding public office. The Colorado court had found that Mr. Trump took part in an insurrection for inciting and supporting the January 6, 2021 attack on the US Capitol by his supporters. Now, again, he has never been officially by a court that I know of, can you tell me if he has been charged of insurrection? This has never been found against him besides these crazy witch hunts by these one-sided Democrats in the House, right? Even in the Senate. Besides them just making up crap, the media making up crap and just, putting all this blame on Trump, this has never been found that he participated in a so-called insurrection on J6. And these media organizations, even the ABC here, the language here, they don't discount the fact that there is no evidence of an insurrection beyond these Democrats saying that it happened, beyond the fact that all the surveillance tapes that we've seen of this so-called J6 insurrection doesn't look like much of an insurrection, if you ask me, in my humble opinion. I've seen all types of coups and government issues with people storming parliaments in many countries, including in Sri Lanka not too long ago, and that looked like an insurrection. Whatever happened on J6, as much as these guys are playing up, what we saw was a protest, then people ended up walking through a building, and then a protester got shot, and then apparently all types of stories were concocted around that, in my opinion. Now, I'm no J69. I think a lot of people that have been put in prison, journalists included in this category, who have been put in prison for merely being there by these Democrat government, by the Biden administration, are political prisoners, and they should be released. It is a shame, it's a sham what's happened, and this is further continuation of that with the Colorado courts now trying to link Trump to this and take him off the actual ballot. Forget an insurrection, forget J6. What the Colorado Supreme Court tried to do to actually overturn the principles of democracy is even worse than what they've ever accused Trump of doing. And it's so great to see that the Supreme Court, 9-0, even the left-wing libtard justices that have been put in by the Democrats have also had to side with the Constitution, because it's all ridiculous. Now, I am no legal scholar by any means when it comes to the legal system, right? But even from my most basic understanding, when this particular case was brought forward, it was clear as day there would be no possible freaking way that this verdict would not go any other way but in favor of Donald Trump, and in particular in favor of the constitutional principles. It just didn't make sense. So what these guys are playing at is just complete ridiculous waste of time and nonsense, and this is the type of thing that the Democrats are focusing on. It's a shame. Let's see how Donald Trump reacted to all of this. Let's see what he said.
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs. And they worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important. Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way.
Perfect words from Trump. I think he just kind of distills it down into the very basics of this, that the Biden administration, however you want to read this, and the Justice Department that he runs, and these, proxies in the states that are Democrat-run proxies, are attempting to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. And they wanted to use lawfare. They wanted to put this to the courts and try to do it this way, but they failed, right? And Trump is correct. They will be speaking about this in 100 years' time, right? The crazy precedents that this type of actions have set. But how have the libtards in America, the left-wing progressives, reacted to all of this? It's very telling. Let's have a look into this.
Necessarily wrong. Look, unfortunately for America, the court isn't necessarily wrong that this is the way the framers wanted it to be. They wanted Congress, the people who are closest.
I just want to pause that there. Unfortunately for America, the Supreme Court, the highest court in America, is not wrong. Unfortunately, this is the media, CNN so-called, reporting that it's unfortunate that the court made the correct decision, is my understanding of what she's saying.
To their constituents to be able to make the rules and the laws. That doesn't change the fact that because of gerrymandering in the House and all kinds of other issues, they're not doing their job on a lot of these big issues.
Yeah. I agree. It's very unlikely, close to impossible that Congress will take action. But this is now a fair question that Manu Raju, Melanie Zanona should be asking members of Congress. Mm-hmm. Are you willing to pass legislation that would give us rules for how this works? It could only be in the future, by the way.
So there you have it. So the courts unfortunately made a decision that, this CNN is not happy with, the panelists aren't happy with. And now they're mulling over the fact that, of course, the courts have said Congress is the correct format for this. The federal government, right? The system is the correct format for deciding things like this. And now what they're mulling over is, which I'll show you a clip of this after, is the fact that can Congress now create some type of legislation to take Trump off the ballot, right? These people will not give up. Let's have a listen.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the House of Representatives already impeached Donald Trump for participating in insurrection by inciting it. So the House has already pronounced upon that, and I am working with a number of my colleagues.
Just look at these guys go, right? The House has already impeached him around this. It's not a legal process. It's not a formal legal finding of insurrection. They're saying their processes within the Congress has decided on this, so now maybe they can pass legislation on this fact. But these people want to be the judge, jury, and executioner in this instance, and they want to find any possible way to save and protect democracy to take Donald Trump off the ballot. How successful they will be is hard to say, and whether they can do it in time before the elections, again, it's up in the air. These people will try anything, though, so anything is still on the cards. You shouldn't be shocked depending on how these people react. Now, Colorado, let's see how they've reacted. This is the people that brought this forward. This is the state secretary, Jenna Griswold.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act, to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body. So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
Yes, lady, it is up to the American voters to save the democracy. That is how the process should work, right? She's hinting at how the process actually should work. You put two candidates to the voters, they'll go to election, and they will vote for the best candidate or whatever. Now, 2020 election, again, under a cloud. When you're seeing this type of behavior from Democrats and this type of lawfare, it's very easy to see why some people question the legitimacy of that election. And even here now, they're worried, right? They want to find another path to stop someone from running on the ballot to protect and save their so-called democracy. complete nonsense. And I know many people will say US is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. I understand all of this, but they discuss it in the terms of protecting democracy, and that is the terms of reference in which I'm referring to. Now, Keith Olbermann, he has had a meltdown on Twitter, and this is, I guess, indicative of many of the media left-wing hacks, you could call them. The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension, and collectively the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. Complete, utter meltdown. And if any Republican or Trump said anything like this about the court, these people would be saying, oh, this guy is so bad for democracy. He's not accepting the rule of law. What do they keep saying? Trump, no one is above the rule of law. No one is above the courts. And even now when the Supreme Court has made a decision, they're just calling even their own Democrat left-wing progressive judges, they're calling them illegitimate and they must be dissolved. Complete and utter bonkers. All right, guys, that's it for Trump for now. I got another little video at the end on this, but I wanted to discuss this issue with Commonwealth Bank that we're seeing around cryptocurrency. As you know, I'm not going to give any financial advice. This is just purely reporting on what's happening, so don't take this as any type of advice. There is actually a bit of a boom going on in the cryptocurrency market at the moment, you know, with Bitcoin almost reaching all-time highs from the 2021, I believe. So there's a lot going on in the crypto space, and a lot of people, especially Aussies, are interested in this new space, right? This new cryptocurrency, these decentralized currencies, and fair enough, right? As adults, as Australians, if we want to invest our money in something, we should be able to do that. While Commonwealth Bank, as it turns out, have now started introducing specific limits on cryptocurrency trading. And this is the letter that one individual received, and it's gotten a bit of media coverage. So I wanted to read this out to you. It's from the Commonwealth Bank. The person's name is crossed out. Your recent payment to a cryptocurrency exchange has been declined because you have exceeded the monthly cryptocurrency limit. CommBank has introduced these limits to help protect you from fraud and scams. The payment limit applies across all of your accounts for the calendar month and resets each month. Visit commbank.com.au crypto payments for more information. Yours sincerely, CommBank. What's the fraud and the scam? I understand that the bank is subject of fraud and scam in terms of their customers being impacted by frauds and scams. But if an Australian was legitimately trading on a legitimate Australian exchange, which there are many of, even on an international exchange, and they wanted to invest their money, let's say it's $20,000, $30,000, more than this $10,000 limit, why can't they? Why can't they put their money into the next big coin or whatever it is, Bitcoin or one of these altcoins? It doesn't matter. Why is the bank now deciding that you can only invest $10,000 of your own money into this investment in cryptocurrency? Unless they specifically know that something is a scam or something is a fraud, what is it their business if you try to invest in something and you lose money? I mean, what's next? They're going to stop you from trading on the Australian Stock Exchange by limiting it because some of the stocks you might invest in plummets and goes down in price, right? It's not the first time that people have invested in things and they haven't got a return for it, right, and lost on that. Sure, banks have a priority and a place to inform their customers and keep them alert. They can let people know, hey, even some people might argue with this, but they can let people know, hey, we've noticed that you've been taking a lot of money and putting it towards this cryptocurrency exchange. Are you aware of frauds and scams? That's the kind of service they can potentially provide, even though that is, some people would say, is invasive, but that might protect some customers that may be subject of a fraud or a scam. But in this instance, they've made the decision already for their customer on how to use their money. And we are seeing more and more banks around the world, especially in Australia, move towards this type of control over your own money on what you can spend it with. And many people have raised the issue of these digitized currencies, the fact that these companies will say that, oh, you've used this much money on this type of product, so it's for, there's too much carbon being emitted now and you can't buy an airline ticket this month. People say that's a conspiracy, but when you're seeing this in this instance, you see they have the power and the ability to do that, and they will do that. So I think this is ridiculous. If people want to put 20K, 30K into a Bitcoin or a coin that they want to invest in, it is not the place of the banks to decide that. and these extra steps that they're creating for customers. I'm sure this person can go into the bank and withdraw their own money and then find another way to get that into this exchange. But it's ridiculous. And when all the banks start doing this, then what? Do you think Commonwealth Bank has a cap, or their investors or other groups that are involved in have a cap in some of the money that they're investing into cryptocurrencies right now as it's booming and making money? All right, you have all these EFTs, you have all these major banking companies now getting involved in these cryptocurrency things, and you're seeing this tighter regulation, and this tighter regulation seems to be impacting everyday people now. It seems to be impacting the ability of an individual, an layman, an everyday person to make an investment of 20K into some coin and making a windfall potentially, or even losing it all. But that's life, and it's not the place of these banks. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. Next up, guys, Matildas captain Sam Kerr charged over alleged racially aggravated harassment of police officer. The darling of the Australian soccer team. I believe she's the captain as well. And we all saw the media splashes and coverage during the time of the World Cup. She has been allegedly involved in a racial incident towards policemen in the UK. Now, forgetting all of that, it's all allegations. We weren't there. It's going to be tried in a court, and there's apparently 2 credible witnesses from the police who will attest to this. I don't know what evidence that they have and what she said. Maybe we'll find out. But in top of all of this, she actually didn't let the Australian team know till very recently. So this was all kept under wraps, and she's the captain. Now, a lot of questions have been raised around the media's portrayal of this particular issue. Now, when male athletes are accused of certain things like this, we've seen when it comes to other types of incidents out there that this has become an issue in the way that is covered by the media. And, a lot of people will say they're guilty before they're innocent. In this instance, I think there's been a bit of a soft media coverage when it comes to this particular individual, but that might change. Are they woke, the Matildas? Do they have this kind of this attitude towards issues like racism and things like this? Yes, they do, and that's why a lot of people are focusing on this. Now, I just got to show you this article from 2021, Tokyo 2022. Matildas take stand against racism by linking arms before New Zealand win. There she is, same person. I'm not saying that there's something untoward going on here or anything like this, but you see these connections between what they portray in public and allegedly what happens in private. I just thought it was an interesting story. Next story, guys, is fascinating for many reasons. Now, I'm no fan of Anthony Albanese, but this story, it's a bit perplexing in many instances, especially considering the minor role that Australia plays in all of this. But the COD News Network, which many have linked to Hamas and other militant groups in Palestine, is reporting on this as well. And that is that breaking, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese referred to the International Criminal Court accused of complicity in genocide, making him the first leader of a Western nation referred to the ICC under Article 15 of the Rome Statute. Now, I believe Australia is a signatory to the Rome Statute, and we participate in these type of things, of course, as a country. Albanese being a war criminal, now many people could make the case that these guys should be tried in many courts for many different reasons, but in this instance, especially considering the minor role that Australia plays in all this, it seems like a convenient scalp to just refer Anthony Albanese for this. Most likely this will be thrown out, it won't even be looked at. And I'm not trying to make light of the fact of what these serious allegations accuse Albanese of. But again, I think it is the wrong use of this type of court, this type of forum. And it is somewhat of a beat up of a story, if you ask me. Now, Anthony Albanese has dismissed the ICC war crimes allegation. Experts weigh in on claims. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has dismissed a letter to the International Criminal Court that accuses members of federal parliament of supporting alleged war crimes in the Hamas-Israel war. Albanese said the 92-page document written by Sydney-based law firm Birchgrove Legal did not have any credibility. The law firm's communique says the government, including the Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Penny Wong, and Defence Minister Richard Marles, as well as opposition leader Peter Dutton, provided explicit political, rhetorical, moral, military and material support for alleged war crimes carried out by Israel. Speaking to reports in Melbourne at the Asian-Australian Summit, Albanese said he clearly has no credibility going forward. I don't think that peaceful resolution is advanced by misinformation, and there has been substantial amounts of misinformation about what is occurring. Albanese said the stance on the Middle East conflict was still consistent with the joint statement he had put out alongside New Zealand and Canada in February, which called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. If you go back to the resolution that was carried out with the support of both major parties in October, they made it very clear that every innocent life matters, whether it's Israel or Palestine. Barrister Seren Omeri, who is advising the legal team behind the letter, told ABC TV the government had accessorial liability for alleged war crimes in the Middle East. Let me know what your thoughts on all of this are. I think, again, this is just lawfare. This is just trying to create these stories. The ICJ, when South Africa bought Israel before them, wasn't able to make a determination on any of these type of things. This is a long, winding process, and to now just take it out on, auxiliary parties to all of this, especially considering Australia does have a humanitarian link in trying to help Palestine as well, trying to help the innocent civilians there, as well as military involvement with Israel. I understand that people are taking aim and issue with this, but this has been a long-standing process, and it's been a very transparent process, regardless of what people may infer based on what is happening and what is being done by the IDF and what opinion you have of that. I don't believe the way that Australia has carried themselves is anything different to what many other countries have decided to carry themselves as when it comes to this incident. You could look at Saudi Arabia, for instance, or any other nation around the world that has been involved in and a party to this. They have spoken to both parties in many instances and called for a ceasefire or called for release of the hostages. It is not as clear-cut as just saying Albanese is a war criminal. There's a bigger process at play here when it comes to how parliaments and international bodies, when it comes to international governments in particular, have to address these issues. So yeah, I don't think this will go anywhere. If you think I'm wrong, please let me know. Okay, back to Donald J. Trump. I just wanted to show you this Mark Cuban, who is one of these rich elites investor. I believe he owns a sports team as well. He has said he'd vote for Biden over Trump, even if President Biden was being given his last rites. That's right. He would vote for a zombie or a corpse of Biden before he votes for Trump. That is how serious his case of Trump derangement syndrome is. And come this election, come 2024 in November, this is the type of derangement that we will be seeing from the media and from the likes of people like Mark Cuban, who no doubt will be on The View and other shows like this saying that they will be leaving the US for places like Canada and maybe Australia if Donald J. Trump is elected. Complete bonkers. And to end it all off, guys, let's have a listen to Jake Tapper and see what he has to say about the erection or insurrection. Let's have a listen in.
Explanation was not they didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an erection, and I have to an insurrection. And I have to say I got up at 5 this morning to do Casey Hunt's show, and I'm exhausted. So explanation.
It's funny because Nikki Haley's there when Jake Tapper's talking about the erection. Anyway, guys, look, hope you've enjoyed my show today. As always, if you're enjoying what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You can also hit the notification bell. Apparently, it gives you better access to my work when I put it up with the the YouTube algorithm and all this kind of stuff. Also, find me on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook at The Real Rukshan, or on my website www.realrukshan.com. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.